calling it a day and letting the director like be the figurehead or something. Like it's so
you're part of the community.
Yeah, it's so horizontal like in that way. And so that, you know, I started to really understand these things and really sink into those things, and kind of was like, huh, you know, but I was just run ragged by the end of the year, which I always am at the end of the year. And I always think that it's like I'm so existential and I'm just like, I have to reevaluate what I'm doing, and I just don't know if like I'm the person for this. And
but every year you have a slightly better year.
And then I come back in January, and then I just go, wait a minute, like I grew and I know so much more, and this year's going to be easier. But then I realize each year is presenting these different just curveballs. And so like catching up to all that, I mean, I think it's ultimately like a really good thing. But that's just to say that the real like skill set of like, you know, if you're ever going to start a nonprofit, is that you really like the real hard skill set is like, no, you know, getting over a fear of asking for money. It was like a huge one. That was a big one. And obviously getting used to writing grants, but also being a little like strategic in terms of where you're going and being able to communicate that, which I think anyone, you know, who is really starting a nonprofit does it from like the heart for real. And so they know they're you know, like everyone's so articulate and clear most all the time. But and then it's also kind of, it's like diversifying sources of income. So it's also learning how to like really just like reach out to a research of like a family foundation or a foundation, and like reaching out and saying, and, you know, having that conversation, like, you know, how can we be a part of what you're doing, and how can you be a part of what we're doing? So those
are hard skills.
Kind of, I mean, that's
I still
like,
struggle
it's
with
very abstract too, because you just don't know who you're talking to and how that language of being in a court, like in a boardroom, in a buttoned up boardroom, that is how these things start to feel. But, you know, I think if you feel purposeful about the work, which, you know, everybody I think does, then you sort of don't have to like be a salesman. You just you're like, you don't feel that way. You feel more like you're just kind of like showing, like talking about the work, and it's great. Cause I mean, you know, it's like most people who are in nonprofits, like they're seeing like what that difference that's making on the ground. They're on the ground. They're seeing like who, like the new audience that came to the show, you know, that never came through the space, that got to see it, got to be like, wow, you know, like this is like the power of art. This is like who we know who had the show. They get to celebrate like their friend. It's the artist who may have not been able to realize a project like that before, or the partnering organization that you now have this like ally with, you know, so I think
you feel less alone.
This, like over time you start to really sort of get into the community that you're trying to build. And that's the thing where it's like, oh, last year just kind of felt like I was like, I feel like I'm trust falling and I'm getting caught in a way.
That's nice. Yeah. That's a good feeling.
Yeah.
It's also strange, right? You're not used to that in life.
No. And that's it. It's like, that was
I recently had
never had that.
I recently had that experience for the first time with Dakota putting on a show for me at Orange Coast College. And I was like, oh my God, it's so crazy, you know? But yeah, that is the community element of these things, where it's like people do kind of believe in the sincerity. No, and like with sales, I always found it funny. Like I always find it funny because if you're a good salesperson, I've been in my life, like you're not selling something to somebody that they don't need. You ask a lot of questions to figure out what their needs are.
Right.
And then you tell them what you're excited about showing them, you know, like for example, what kind of music do you want to play, you know, and then you tap into that excitement. But if they're not going to get into it, like it really sucks to sell somebody something, you know? So, but yeah, I think that in the art space, people are already into the product, you know? So if the vision is solid, it can be an easy sell. So
Definitely. I think that's with any product that you believe in.
Well, especially when you're when the end goal is to create community.
Mhm.
People, people want communities, and
Yeah.
it's also funny that it's in a church because that's also a old type of community that used to be a lot more related to art. And
yeah, it was built in 1922, and like
wow.
and churches back then were functioned as like also like schools, and I mean that was like it had like multiple activities. There was a gym,
Yeah,
there was kids classrooms, there was like it was meeting space, it was like all these different things.
how often do you guys switch the shows now? Is it still 2 shows a month?
No. So so COVID actually allowed me to put that to sleep, because I'll tell you why, is because while that model can, work, I don't think it's a sustainable one to have that many shows, because you're not putting like you're not really like at that rate. If you don't have the capacity to search, and really what it means is that each show should be like special.
Yeah.
And I think what my experience was prior to like the program now, just like Lydia's program, was like that artists would really get like overlooked, or like there was no time to like promote the show. There's no plan to like properly like engage or think about.
One of the unfortunate things is how much that I've learned doing this show is how much promotion matters. Because if you don't tell people it's there, they don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Like, they're not gonna like just be like, oh, the show comes out every week.
Correct.
Like it's literally crazy. Like no one's everybody's too busy to be like, well, LA Artcore has a show every third Thursday and I'm just going to keep track of that. Like you literally that is one of the things that I hate the most about doing this stuff.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, that's a trade-off too, because like if you had some like catchy thing like third Thursdays, that's like potentially smart. But yeah, we're so irregular in the sense that when I look at a project proposal or something that comes in, I really think about like, what is this project? How much time does it need?
How do you guys field proposals? Are people allowed to just submit them open? Is there like an open call? Is there specific parameters?
Right now, I mean, we don't have like the capacity to do like a juried open call or something like that. But we do take proposals that we feel like, and we'll look at proposals, but we, at the very least, we'll do a studio visits. Like we're like all about just getting into the studios and really, just looking at the work and just being with the artist, with where they're at. And do
you do solo shows? Or is it
okay. It runs the gamut. I mean, sometimes like
I've only been to one, which is that group show, but I love the space and I love the location too.
Yeah,
because you can just hit the Geffen too.
Totally. I mean, it's like
see the most expensive shit and then a small community.
Yeah, the DIY space. Yeah. I mean, I feel like the studio visits is sort of the start, and that that just like makes it that makes it just like open to anybody.
How do you? People can invite you to studio visits, or okay, so
they can just reach out. People can